What's going on, everybody? Now tuned into the Re-Up Podcast. With me today, as always, my co-host Hector61. Today we have a very special guest joining us live on Zoom. She started out as a PR assistant at Paper Magazine, then transitioned over to the modeling world. She has modeled for big brands such as Nike and Fenty, while serving as a brand ambassador for Fenty. And if that's not good enough, she has experience working at Good Music. Here to discuss her latest work with her fashion brand Evisu 1991. Let's give a warm welcome to Tay Gosling.
Woo! Hello.
Let's get
Hey,
it.
how's it going?
Me forever.
Of course. Thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it. All right, so to kind of we always kind of start off the show nowadays, since like now we're doing the Zoom conference calls with this coronavirus. We always ask our guests how they're kind of like adjusting to the whole coronavirus situation, because some are music artists, some are actual entrepreneurs, business owners. So it's affecting it's affecting everybody a little differently. So Tay, tell us real quick, how are you adjusting to this whole COVID-19 situation?
It's taking it day by day. Honestly, my main thing is just trying to keep my sanity, just because, we're humans. We're not made to be, stuck inside of four walls,
Right, of course.
Day in, day out. It's not normal. We're not made for that. So, I've just been, just trying to keep my sanity and also keep my spirits up and still, try to plan for the future, because, there will be a day when we're back outside. It will be a new version of normalcy, but, there's going to be a time where we get back to everything. So I'm just trying to, prepare for that. And although I'm not trying to put too much pressure on myself as to get things done, or like you have to, because, it's a pandemic, right. I'm still trying to, get moves and set them in order for when, things do begin to return, just to, get started with my best foot forward. So.
Right. I feel anxious with, all the responsibilities you have, and the fact that you really can't network and do stuff in person that much due to the pandemic. Like, does that anxiety type of kind of kick up a little bit?
A little bit, especially because, for example, sometimes I have to get packages out to certain people, and because agents and managers aren't in their usual offices, the buildings, is kind of shifting the way I usually do things. It's making me anxious because, I have my own goals work-wise that I need to meet. And then there's just the fact that, everything is on pause. We're so used to things working in a certain way. So your goals are adjusted to everyday regular life and what we're used to. But it's that's not what we have right now. So say, for example, if an artist had a upcoming show, and I wanted to get them suited for that show, they don't have the show anymore. So now I'm trying to figure out how I can still hit that goal of having that artist in that piece, but still working into quarantine and still, it's just a bunch of things. But, gotta just do the best with what you have. So I'm just grateful, honestly, the day just to be alive and healthy and well. So I'm gonna make it work regardless. That's
nice. That hustler ambition. I hear that. But for the most part, you're a business-oriented person. You've been in the fashion world, and you've been also in the music world. So would you say that you're probably used to video conferencing, having those type of meetings, So would you say this is weird for you at all, taking on these Zoom type of calls, or are you more of an interactive type of person, face to face?
It's not weird, just because I think because usually when it comes to face to face, that's versus email, that's where my personality gets to come out. But it essentially is kind of face to face through doing the Zoom. So I'm grateful that, we have the technology where we can speak to each other. It doesn't only have to be email. So honestly, it doesn't faze me at all. It's very normal.
All right, so you've also been a part of not only the modeling world, but also the music world and fashion world. So being with and meeting with a lot of artists and people in general. So is it kind of tough sometimes, handling also the other types of emotions that artists and these other types of people have now, being that they can do face to face types of things? Does that kind of reflect on you sometimes?
Fortunately, not really. Luckily, I guess I would say like managers and agents have to deal with more of that just because although I will meet the artists and speak to them, I tend to coordinate mostly because it's more of the business stuff. I tend to coordinate mostly with the agents and the managers. So they always keep it professional and like we're also just honest about, everything that's going on. So we always tend to be on the same page. So luckily I don't have to deal with potential attitudes. Not saying that the artists do have attitudes, but if they were to, I wouldn't know.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Is there any moments where the artist would rather deal with you directly and not, go through the whole agent processing thing? Or do you like, you keep it business oriented, like, no, there's regulations we have to follow, even if, I want to like go ahead and, work with you?
Yeah. So usually I just try to work with their agent or manager, but I always give the option, like I let the manager or agent know, like, hey, if they do want to speak to me directly or like talk to me directly, like feel free to give them my contact and I'm down. Or sometimes it'll be like a three-way where it's like the three of us will be in communication. So I always give that option because also like sometimes people don't want the middleman and like sometimes I can brainstorm myself because I'm working, with the brand versus they're technically the creative. Sometimes like we can just have our own like brainstorming and our own like ideas together versus like that can get lost in translation or because there's the middle person and it has to go through another stop. Sometimes you don't end up having that brainstorming or that, kind of situation. So sometimes I do like go straight to the artist or I do like a three-way thing where it's like me and the artist can speak. So that way we can start bouncing off of each other.
Awesome. With and meeting artists or models and people in general, it's nothing new to you. So it comes part of the job. But at the same time, this disease has shown how deadly it can be so far. We've experienced so many deaths. We heard the news. So with the importance of social distancing, would you say, in a sense, you would rather like work at this moment, like with your clients from afar, or would you say you still would rather work with them like in person? Like if somebody were to call you and say, Tay, I need you to come over here and see if you can check this out. Would you be like, I got you? Or are you taking the social distancing thing serious?
I am taking it seriously. I would. I'm trying to figure out who would it be that would make me even like second guess and be like maybe, but like honestly, nobody. I'm not.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to be a good citizen, and I'm gonna say no one because I don't want to put anyone in jeopardy. Fortunately for me, in my household, we don't necessarily have anybody. There's only like 4 of us, but we don't have anyone that's necessarily like a higher risk.
Right.
But still, like, who knows if I go to meet said artist and then, I have to go to the grocery store and then I come into contact with someone that is higher risk. And let's say I never had it. And then I end up getting it, going to see the artist and not saying it's the artist, but it could be anybody that's there. And then I end up, passing it along to someone else. And it's like, I'd rather just be safe than sorry. So I'm just going to have to say, meet me on Zoom so we could talk about it. We could keep but nah, I'm not linking. I'm not linking until, what's his name? Is it de Blasio, right?
The mayor?
Yeah. I think it should be.
Right?
Yeah, Mayor de Blasio.
What de Blasio says we can link. So, Zoom, baby. We can still get it popping over Zoom. That's the thing. When it comes to like Zoom and like, that's why I'm so fortunate for our technology because it's not like we only have to do email. Like I can see you. I can express myself. You can express me. We can bounce off of each other. Where it doesn't have to be a stop and start like emails. So you can get a lot done through Zoom, as I have been during quarantine. I've still been doing like Zoom meetings and stuff. But no, sorry. You're not worth, no matter how big you are, you're not worth me putting not only my life, but other susceptible lives in jeopardy. It's never worth somebody's life. because we
Right.
can still get it done regardless.
Yeah, going back to what you said
I
about
heard that.
technology, I definitely agree because even like in media, and even like for what we do, if it wasn't for Zoom or Skype or like, you know, any of these type of like type of services, you know, we wouldn't be able to do episodes anymore. We wouldn't be able to do, you know, these type of like interactions with and like meet new people for the first time and all that. So I think definitely now, like, you know, there really isn't like any excuse to, you know, not take precautions and not do stuff. Yeah, there's certain jobs that you have to go outside and do stuff. Well, for what we do for conferences calls like this, for the most part, yeah, like why not just stay home and like take advantage for the most part and just play it safe?
You can still get it done. It's just,
absolutely.
For sure. No, for real. So, Tay, we've had many great guests on our podcast, and recently we've gotten the chance to know them a little bit more and their and their upbringing and their backstory. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, your ethnicity, where you're from, and how you started your career in this?
Sure thing. So, I'm New York City born and raised. I was born Upper West Side, Mount Sinai Hospital.
Heard you.
In 1997. So I just turned 23 in quarantine / social distancing.
Happy belated.
Yeah, happy belated birthday.
I got turned up in the living room.
Okay.
It was lit. I had on my little Fred Perry shirt, some pants, and some Jordans. I had some bottles of what the hell did I have? Of Clique. I had a few bottles of Clique, and
nice.
I got some oxtail and Rasta pasta from Footprints, and I called it a day.
Ooh. She got the oxtails. Heard you.
Best.
Yeah. So, anyways, speaking of oxtail, so I'm Jamaican and I'm American. So my dad's an immigrant from Jamaica. My mom is a Southern, and they met in New York, and they had me, which I'm their only child together. I have a brother, Brendan. He's my age. A little fun fact about Jamaicans: they are, I won't say the devil living, but they are scary. So
Okay.
I love them though. My brother and he's my everything. That's like my twin, but also like one of my best friends. And him and I are 8.5 hours apart. We have the same dad but different moms, but we're 8.5 hours apart. So it's crazy. Same year and everything. April 2nd. Yeah. But anyways, moving forward. So that's a little tea about Jamaican men. But yeah, I'm Jamaican American, born and raised in New York. Lived in the Bronx until I was 8, and then been a Brooklyn girl ever since. I've lived in LA for like the past a little over 2 years, but I'm in New York right now for this. So like as soon as I got word of like everything happening, I just flew back to New York because this was before they even like started shutting down. But like once I heard what was going on with my mom being a nurse, I decided to come back. So I would at least during the chaos be, with family. But yeah. And then in terms of where I got my start, I started my first internship was it summer 2016? So I think I was 19. I did my first internship, and it was at a PR showroom called Archetype, showroom in Soho. And I was the PR intern there. And then my next internship was Paper Magazine. So I started out as a PR intern, and I was interning with Kat, the most amazing person ever. And it was supposed to be a 3-month internship, but like we really clicked, as you can kind of tell. I have a big personality, so we really clicked and like got comfortable with each other, and so we ended up extending my internship. And so it started at 3 months, and then it went to like 6. And at 6 months, she invited me to her birthday party. At her birthday party, she started introducing me to people as her assistant. So I'm looking at her like, "What you talking about?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, I want you to be like my official assistant." I was like, "Oh shit!" So excuse my language. So I was like. So then I was officially promoted to like the PR assistant at Paper.
Nice.
And I think I was 20 at the time. Oh, no, I was 19 and 20. So I ended up staying at Paper for a year total. And then after Paper, I went to Mass Appeal for a little bit. And I was interning there, but I realized I wanted to hone in on music because with Paper, it's entertainment as a whole. But a Mass Appeal / Mass Mass Appeal Records is like a record label and
media for the most part. They also produce a lot of stuff, right?
Right.
Mass Appeal also produces a lot of stuff. Like it's not just music, but like they produce like a lot of film, a lot of like written stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also a record label. It's co-founded by Nas and everything. So
right.
For a little bit, and I realized I wanted to hone in on music. So the Mass Appeal definitely helped with that. I was only there for like a short period of time, but I started reaching out to labels, and around that time I was like, okay, I know I want to be in music and I love public relations, but then I started looking at other jobs related to public relations, and that's how I properly got into what an A&R is, and I was like, this is what I want to do. So I started reaching out to labels, basically letting them know everything that I had done so far, everything that I want to do, and what I know that I'm capable of, and that, just showing that I could be a great asset to their team and such. And I was reaching out to different labels, and one of the labels that got back to me was an A&R at Good Music. And so he got back to me. Mind you, this is in Cali and I'm in New York at the time. But I kept saying in all my emails, like, I will move. I don't care. Like, I'm here with it. I don't care. So his name is Ricky. He like spoke to me and he was like, yeah, like we can like, discuss it more. So this was September of 2017. I had reached out to him. And then October, I went to LA for a week to visit my friend, but also the highlight of my trip was to go and discuss, the good music stuff. And so I go and I meet him, and he was like, we meet at the studio. He has me come by the studio. So we're talking at the studio, and off as an intern or something, yada yada. I'm like, don't tell me that because I will move here. He was like, no, we can't. I was like, all right. Nice. So that was October, and then I moved in November. Right. So I was not joking. Like, I bought my flight, like my one way, like 2 weeks
That's
after
hot.
him. I bought my one way, and then I told my parents after. And at the time I'm 20, so I told my parents, and I'm like, yeah, so I'm about to move to LA. And they're like, what? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm gonna, like, you guys know, because they know that I take my career seriously. So it didn't faze me at all. I was like, because I have one life to live, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, the number one thing that I tell people is that the world is just up to you to go get it. So I was going to get it, I had no choice. So, I bought my flight because I knew they were not going to reimburse me. And then I went there. I was not letting anybody talk me out of it. But, so then I was working there at No Name Stills, which was in North Hollywood. It's the label's like main studio. And I was working there up until February of last year. But while I was working there, I also started working with the Evisu on the side. And so I've been working with the Evisu. This summer will make 2 years.
Perfect. All right, so you just gave us a lot right there, like a whole chunk of stuff.
Sorry.
No, which is perfect. We love like long answers, like stuff like that.
Okay, I'm very detailed.
That's perfect. I love that. Thank you so much for answering the question. But let's break it down a little bit. So going back to the beginnings, when you were 19, as an intern, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did they have you do as an intern / assistant? Because you promoted yourself like really quickly, like pretty much in the same year from an intern to an assistant, which is almost impossible. So what were they having you doing as a assistant / intern?
So, I guess I'll start with the intern part. So I guess we could just talk about paper.
Yeah.
Mainly because I spent like the longest there. So because I was a public relations intern, for example, when we would have our events, like, for example, when we did like a fashion week with like where we had Travis Scott perform, or like just our different events, if you're in the public relations department, like you work like front of house. So like when we'd have events, you would help like, check people in, you'd make sure we would have like face sheets. So for example, as interns, we would make like the face sheets. So I remember multiple events, I would have to like the people we would deem as like the super VIP, just get their photo, name underneath, and we like, print it out in color. So that way when they do pull up, if you don't already know who they are or you're not sure, you can just look at the photo sheet and then be like, okay, they're super VIP. We need to get them in here into this section, yada, yada.
Perfect.
Then also, even before the events, we'd be the ones to put together the list. We'd be the ones to send out all of the emails, whether it be with the person's like publicist or their agent, or them directly, depending on the person. We would have to be the ones in contact with them, reaching out to them. Sometimes we would even help the production team. And so like if there's vendors and stuff, we would also help them reach out. I remember we had to fly some people in for something, and I had to figure out like where they were going to stay, just to find like the best fit for like our budget, but also what makes the most sense in terms of like relation to like the event space. So say if it was on like 14th, I want to find them a hotel that's near 14th, but it's not like that's up to their standards, but that's also not like $300 a night over budget. So like, coordinating those type of things, finding flights. But it was mostly dealing with like our events. And when we would like release articles or covers, we'd have to keep up with the websites that would cover our cover. So like if people wrote articles about it, we have to, just keep track of the amount of hits that company usually gets a month. Just keeping track of numbers and like, everything that comes to like the public view of us.
Right. Yeah. For 19, it seems like a lot of responsibility for a 19-year-old. When you first got that position, they kind of laid out exactly what you were doing. Was it a little overwhelming at first, or were you kind of already prepared? Like, hey, listen, this is exactly what I signed up for. Let's do it.
I would say a little bit of both. It's just only overwhelming in the beginning, how your team specifically, as well as the company, works and runs. But because I'm a person, I consider myself a fast learner. It didn't take me long to get adjusted. So it wasn't that hard. You just have to stay on your toes for sure and just be attentive. But it wasn't bad at all. I loved it. And I felt ready for it because when I go into new situations or any job, whether it be big or small, my focus is there. I'm just ready to get it done. So I'm always going to be, bright-eyed and like ready to do whatever that needs to get done. And I also was fortunate to work with great people that made it simple to follow along.
Awesome.
For the most, would you say from the get-go, you said it you said it on that paper for a year. So going back a little, did you know from the start that it was gonna be kind of like a pit stop? Or did you know like for example, you knew like your stops at Paper and Mass Appeal, did you know there were gonna be pit stops? Or were you trying to get like a staff job at Paper or Mass Appeal, let's say?
I knew Mass Appeal was gonna be a pit stop only because I had the people that I worked with, they were great, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. Like when I came to them, it wasn't, the exact position that I wanted, but I was just still grateful to be there and to still have an internship there. So I knew definitely that was going to be a pit stop. So during my time at Mass Appeal was when I was also reaching out to the labels and stuff. So I stopped Mass Appeal like mid-September, and then like that was when I was hearing back from like some of the labels. So it was all, I knew that it was like just for the time being. But Paper, I did not know it was going to be a pit stop, but I was happy that it was a pit stop. So that's why when it was coming to the end of my 3 months, because most of the interns there, only do 3 months. That's what like the contract is.
Right.
But like,
right.
I guess my boss and I, like, we just really liked each other, and like, I kind of became a known figure in the office just because like, my personality, I don't hide my personality. So like I would walk into the office every morning and be like, bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. And then they would say bonjour back to me and like different stuff like that. So not only did we build relationships on a personal level, but I also just really knew how to get my work done. And like whenever they needed somebody to help with like any event, I was always like, ready and there. So And also it was just a great team. So I definitely didn't want to leave either, which also I would say, to go back to the previous question, helped with the work as well, because we had a great team. So the other interns I loved, and my boss, she's amazing. And like everything was pretty clear in terms of like when we had to have it by and all that stuff. So it wasn't a challenge in that sense. So once you know what the end goal is and like when you need it by, as long as you get it done in that time, it's not hard. But yeah, I did want to keep staying there. And so when we sat down and discussed it, and then we ended up extending it for another 3 months. Well, actually, we kind of extended it indefinitely, but we knew that it would probably be at least another 3 months, like another round of interning. I was, ecstatic. And then when I was promoted, I was like, okay, it's going to be another little minute, but I was excited, and yeah, I was definitely interested in being like a part of the legitimate staff, but at the same time, I wasn't like super pressed for it, just because I knew that I was still gaining experience. So I knew that even if I didn't get hired per se as like a everyday, like a legitimate position, I knew that it would be okay, because I know that I'm still there learning experience, like getting experience. So, just hope for the best, but also just remember like why you're there, and just take it in as much as you can without always trying to just automatically jump to the next step. Always aim towards the next step, but you don't always have to jump to it immediately, because you still need to take it in. There's always more to learn. Even experts always have more to learn.
Always.